Okay, let's talk about something I bet sounds familiar. You spend years, right, studying English, elementary, high school, maybe even university. And then, boom, you meet a native speaker and you just freeze. Your brain just goes totally blank. Like system error blank. Mouth opens, but, well, nothing comes out. Even though maybe you just learned some fancy word like, I don't know, ubiquitous last week. Does that ring a bell at all? We often think, okay, maybe this means I'm lazy or just not smart enough for languages. But what if the real problem, the actual issue, isn't you at all? What if it's the way you've been trying to learn? Because honestly, you are absolutely not alone in feeling this frustration. Really, millions of people are trying to learn English. Well, in a way that just doesn't quite mesh with how our brains are actually wired.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What if there was a simple, almost, I don't know, magical sounding, yet totally real method? Something your brain has basically been waiting for since you were a kid. A way to make English really sink in. Not just, sit there like a forgotten flashcard.
That's a great starting point. And what's really fascinating here, looking at the material we've gathered, is this fundamental mismatch. It's between how we typically attempt to learn English and how our brains, how they're actually designed to acquire language. So, yeah, this deep dive isn't about going over those old, often frustrating methods again, the ones that left so many people feeling kind of inadequate. Instead, our mission today really is to uncover what the sources are calling the single way to speak English fluently like a native speaker. We want to show you a natural, a really effective approach, and it's rooted in the actual science of how the human brain picks up language.
Okay, so let's dig into that frustration first. Why does it happen to so many English learners? Most people start out thinking they need this huge vocabulary, right? Tens of thousands of words to even think about being fluent. But what our sources are suggesting is that this is just a massive misconception, a big one. Think about the usual study habits we all kind of fall into. Endless vocabulary lists, memorizing stuff by rote, grammar exercises that feel like you're, decoding ancient hieroglyphics, and flashcards until your eyes just glaze over. It feels so dry, doesn't it? It's exhausting. And when it comes down to actually using the language in the real world, it's often, pretty ineffective. Those words just stay like dead letters in your head. No context, no pictures, no real feeling attached to them. And when I was reading through the material for this, something really jumped out at me. It's how we're often taught English. And it's surprisingly like how we learn subjects like math or chemistry. Sentence structure gets analyzed like it's some complex formula.
Right, like you're solving for X or something.
Exactly. Vocabulary comes in these long, just totally disconnected lists.
No real connection.
And grammar.
Yeah.
It's presented like these rigid, unbreakable laws, like commandments carved in stone.
Yeah.
It's almost like trying to build a car by just memorizing the names of all the parts, but never seeing how they actually fit together or move.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this whole unnatural approach, it has some pretty significant downsides. It basically turns English from this living, breathing skill into something more like a school subject.
Oh.
And the moment it becomes a subject, what comes with that? All the anxieties kick in.
Yeah.
Pressure, worrying about judgment, the stress of getting things right or wrong, obsessing over scores and tests.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
And that whole mindset is completely the opposite of how we naturally pick up any skill, really. Even modern tools, the apps, the quizzes, the online tutors.
Yeah.
They seem helpful, right? But they can accidentally keep this problem going. They focus on what the sources call stuffing English from the outside in, instead of letting it just sort of soak in naturally from the inside. And here's the paradox. It's quite profound, actually. The harder you try to learn this way, often the further you move from practical, real-world fluency. You might ace a written test on sentence structure, but then you get stuck trying to use it in a real conversation.
Right.
You might memorize a word perfectly, but you stumble over the actual pronunciation or miss the subtle meaning. You know all the grammar rules backwards and forwards, but speaking feels awkward because, as the material points out, no one speaks like a textbook.
Nobody does.
So this leads to what we could call fake progress. You feel like you're doing well on paper, your notebooks are full, the app gives you green check marks everywhere, maybe your test scores are even great.
Yeah, you feel productive.
Exactly. But then in a real chat, you still can't quite confidently open your mouth. And why is that? Because English isn't really for studying, is it? It's for understanding, for feeling, for using. If you don't truly grasp what you're learning, deep down, no matter how much you cram, it just stays superficial.
Okay. So if all those traditional methods, the flashcards, the grammar drills, if they're falling short, what's the alternative? Is there something fundamentally different we should be doing? Our sources point towards a solution. It might sound a bit academic at first, but it's actually incredibly simple and intuitive. It's called comprehensible input. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, the sources explain this is exactly how you learned your first language, your mother tongue. Think back to when you were a toddler. Nobody sat you down with grammar charts, right?
Definitely not.
No flashcards. You listened to the adults around you, you watched what they did, and slowly, bit by bit, you absorbed the meaning from real-life situations. No textbooks, no tests, and yet you mastered it perfectly. It sounds almost too easy, doesn't it?
It does, but it's fundamentally how we're built to learn language. Comprehensible input is exactly that. Exposure to English that's clear, simple, and crucially, it's always paired with things like images, actions, facial expressions, context. And here's the key insight, and it's really powerful. You don't need to understand every single word you hear. Not at all. Your brain does this amazing thing silently and powerfully where it learns by just feeling the context surrounding those unknown words.
Oh, okay.
Imagine watching a simple video. Someone says, this is a dog. You see the dog. Then the dog is running. You see it run. Now it's jumping. And as they say jumping, they point, or the dog actually jumps. You get it instantly right.
Yeah, visually.
You don't need to pause, look up jumping. Your brain just connects the sound to the action. Boom. Understood. No translation needed, no notes necessary. Your brain is literally, as the sources say, programmed from birth to learn this way. Through context, through images, through real lived experience. And you might ask, well, why is this a secret weapon? What makes it so special? It's because it doesn't demand that you're already fluent. It doesn't even demand much prior knowledge. All it asks is that you're willing to learn like a child again, with that natural curiosity, just observing, letting go of the pressure. Exactly. Instead of forcing yourself, battling with memorization, you just live with English. You absorb it. And that low-pressure environment, turns out it's incredibly effective for learning.
That makes so much sense. It really does. And it leads us right into the why behind it, the core mechanics that make this method work so well. And there's some surprising facts that came out of the material. Here's one that might just blow your mind a little. You only need about 3,000 of the most common English words.
Just 3,000?
Yep, just 3,000. To understand roughly 95% of what native speakers say in everyday conversation.
Wow, 95%.
95%. That's such a stark contrast to that idea of needing tens of thousands, isn't it?
Huge difference.
To put it in perspective, that's probably less than half the words in an average paperback novel.
Yeah.
So why does this work? It's because vocabulary isn't meant to be learned in a vacuum. It needs to be, as the sources put it, attached to images, actions, emotions, and specific contexts. Think about it. Instead of learning by just repeating words, rote learning, you learn by feeling the meaning. Instead of abstract theory, you learn through action, through seeing, and maybe the best part, you learn without even feeling like you're actively learning half the time. You're just experiencing things.
Precisely. When a word gets linked directly to an image or an action you see or maybe an emotion someone expresses, your brain holds on to it much, much more deeply than if you just saw it on a list in a book. Right. Because it becomes part of an experience. And we humans, well, we remember experiences far better, far more vividly than abstract theories or lists. So there's genuinely no need to force yourself to memorize. Your brain just does the heavy lifting automatically, efficiently.
Nice.
And it's the same with grammar. You don't learn it through rigid, complex rules you have to drill into your head. Instead, just by repeatedly hearing correct sentences used naturally in lots of different situations, your brain starts picking up the patterns. You'll naturally begin to realize, oh, wait, Native speakers actually say it this way, not the way my old textbook taught me.
That aha moment.
Exactly. And that crucial realization doesn't come from memorizing rules. It comes from frequent, natural, and importantly, comfortable exposure. And the benefits go beyond just words and grammar. It's really holistic. You start absorbing intonation, the natural rhythm and flow of sentences, proper pronunciation, even how sounds link together when people speak quickly. All these things get absorbed naturally all at the same time.
Yeah.
But maybe the most powerful outcome, you start developing reflexes.
Reflexes. How so?
You hear English and you understand it directly without that slow, clunky internal translation process happening in your head.
Thinking in English.
Exactly. You start thinking in English. And that very lack of pressure, that comfort level, that's really the magic. You end up understanding and retaining far more than you would in some stressful classroom setting. Why? Because everything you hear is tied to real actions, real emotions, real context. It makes sense. And get this, the material makes a pretty astonishing claim. A well-made 10-minute English vlog can be as effective as an hour of classroom learning.
Wow, 10 minutes versus an hour.
It's not just about saving time. It's about the quality of that learning, how your brain processes rich, engaging, context-filled content versus just, sterile drills. You don't need a massive textbook. You don't need to be good already. You just need to be willing to watch, listen, observe, and let your brain do its natural thing.
Okay, that sounds, well, frankly, amazing. Almost too good to be true, right? So if the old ways don't really work, and this comprehensible input thing is the key to unlocking fluency, how do we actually do it? What are the practical steps someone listening right now can take? The really good news here is it's incredibly simple. The material we looked at boils it down to just 3 straightforward steps. No expensive textbooks needed, no extra classes, no complicated techniques. This is genuinely for everyone.
Absolutely right. Step 1 is simply choose suitable English videos that kind of match where you are right now in your understanding. And by suitable, we don't mean complex academic lectures or anything too dense.
Right, keep it simple.
Exactly. The closer the videos are to everyday life, the better. Think about vlogs, maybe, someone just going grocery shopping or cooking a simple meal, walking their dog, maybe just having basic everyday chats.
Okay, like real life stuff.
Perfect example. A cooking vlog. They're making pasta. You see them chop veggies, stir the pot. Then they say, add the sauce while pouring it in. Even if sauce is a new word for you, the action makes it obvious instantly.
You see it, you get it.
Precisely. And when you watch, try to resist that urge to pause and look up every single word you don't know. Just relax, listen, observe. Try to guess the meaning from the pictures, the actions, the expressions. The main goal here is just getting your ears used to how native speakers actually sound and letting your brain naturally absorb the new words, the sentence structures, the pronunciation, just like you did with your first language. Okay, step 2, consolidate what you've learned. So after you watch a video, don't just click away immediately. Take a few minutes, and I really mean just a few minutes. Review any new words or maybe phrases that you consciously noticed or remembered, and here's where modern tech can be super helpful. You can totally use AI like ChatGPT for this part.
Oh, interesting. How'd that work?
Well, you could just ask it something like, hey, can you summarize the key vocabulary from this type of video? Or ask for clear definitions, or show you the words in different tenses, or even ask it to create some new example sentences using those words.
That's smart. Active recall almost.
Exactly. It helps you lock it in without that old school, tedious memorization grind. And you can tailor it too. If you're a beginner, maybe ask for explanations in your native language alongside the English. If you're more advanced, stick to English-only explanations. That really helps push you towards thinking directly in English.
Makes sense. Smart reinforcement.
And then step 3. This one's optional, but it's highly recommended if you want that long-term memory boost. Use smart repetition software like Anki.
Anki, what's that?
It's basically like intelligent flashcards. It uses an algorithm to show you words for review just at the perfect moment, right before you're likely to forget them.
Oh, clever. Spaced repetition.
It's exactly spaced repetition. It's incredibly effective for boosting retention over months, even years. Now, If apps aren't really your thing, that's fine too. A simple notebook works. Just jot down the new words and make a habit of reviewing them regularly, maybe once a week. The absolute key, though, across all 3 steps is consistency and actively re-engaging with the vocabulary you're picking up. These 3 steps, they sound simple, maybe almost too simple.
Yeah.
But the combined impact, it's truly profound when you stick with it, when you make it part of your routine. You're not forcing yourself to learn anymore. You're just living with English every day, intelligently, sustainably.
And that's the roadmap right there. It's about consciously shifting your approach, moving away from cramming information into your head and towards learning through feeling, through this consistent, gentle exposure. And honestly, you will start to see real, tangible progress, probably just a matter of weeks. The power is in that small, consistent effort. It really is. Just one short video, a little bit of observation, reviewing a few words, repeat that consistently, day in, day out. And this seemingly simple method, it's likely far more effective than anything you experienced in a traditional classroom where, let's be honest, the pressure often just gets in the way of actual learning. All those nights struggling with flashcards were, well, let's just say they built character, right?
Maybe so.
But yeah, you really don't need to be good to start this journey. You just need to start to eventually become truly good.
Well said. And your progress, it won't just be on paper or in test scores. It'll be deep down in your thinking, in your reflexes. You'll just find yourself understanding English more easily, responding faster, speaking without that constant, frustrating mental translation. This whole approach, it really makes me wonder, if language acquisition is naturally this intuitive, this innate, what other areas of learning in our lives might we be tackling in similarly unnatural ways? And how could shifting our perspective, maybe adopting a more comprehensible input style approach in those areas, how could that unlock much greater understanding and mastery there too? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today.